Mike sent us a clip where I'm just waiting. Literally, I'm like, Raptors.
Yeah.
And then Chris is like,
So you
CJ McCollum. I'm like, oh, okay.
You're like, oh wow, okay, so right. Yeah, poor Chris always gets flamed.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Man. I hate me.
Deserving.
Deserving.
I mean,
not even close.
Deservingly, but also like this year, I think you have a right to flaunt your team because they've definitely done well. We all have a right. What are you making that face for, Sivash?
Listen, bro, we're gonna get to my take of the week.
All right.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess with that. The take of the week. I don't know when this episode will come out. We did just
when it's good and ready to come out, okay, Tobias?
I'm not gonna force when
in 100 years
when it's prepared, it's prepared. We just did our play-in predictions literally yesterday. Tonight at the time of this recording, or today at the time of this recording, the Los Angeles Clippers are gonna play the Minnesota Timberwolves in the first game of the play-in, and the Nets are taking on the Cavs in the first game of the play-in. But welcome to the Lob It Up Podcast. We are your hosts, Sivash, Chris, and I'm Tobias. Sivash is over there wiping his eyes. He's sad, maybe he's sad, but I know I just talked to you guys yesterday about how you doing today. Are you excited for play-in basketball? And obviously, are you excited for the playoffs to see your two teams, start to compete in the East?
Who are you talking to?
Sivash.
There you go. So, yeah, I'm good. We literally did record yesterday, and we all thought we were going to record everything at once, but thankfully the play-in talk took about an hour, so we're back again to try to make sure we, maybe finish this one a little bit faster, but who knows? Maybe we'll spend an hour on the Raptors and the Philly matchup.
Oh,
probably. It'll be, what it'll be? Usually I'm the monologue guy. I feel like when it comes to that matchup, though, between Philly and Boston, Philly and Toronto, there's a lot to talk about, and Chris might, go on a little bit of a tangent. But Chris, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, despite all the early slander right away. It's crazy.
He was getting
honestly. That's what I do.
Even with stuff like hats and stuff.
Yeah, this guy's telling me I can't
wear a hat.
Can't wear a hat? Like, I get it. It's because I got big hair. Too much hair sometimes.
You got a big melon. With a lot of brain up there.
Honestly, I do have a big melon. I'm not going to lie. I have to always buy the large/XL size hats. Ugh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't like it. But other than that, I'm good. Sun's shining. Might try and get outside for a walk or something a little bit later. I don't know.
It's like outdoor hooping weather now. Like, it's getting to that point. I'm very excited. Very excited. We're going to have to... We played a little game last summer. We'll have to get the cameras out and record us.
Yeah, I had to see clamps, That's crazy.
What are you talking about, bro? Get the fuck out of here.
Every time he gets a, yo, what are you talking about, bro? What are you talking about?
Yeah. And to continue the what are you talking about, maybe some hot takes that we're going to get into. Let's start with the takes of the week. I know yesterday we had, last episode we had some takes. I didn't really get to marinate on any takes, but I got something today. But I know Sivash has, got one or two or maybe more than a few. So Sivash, I'll let you get it started with your take of the week episode.
My take of the week / episode is Raptors fans gotta relax. What do you mean?
How do you mean we gotta relax?
And I will explain a little bit further in point about Pascal Siakam.
I know where this is going.
I just saw multiple times in the past few days people that were putting out their ballots, some people that are not even media members that were saying, this was my ballot if I was to have a ballot. And numerous people had Pascal on All-NBA second team over guys like DeMar and LeBron and even, I'm not going to say Jimmy. I think Jimmy does not have a case as much as Pascal. But to have Pascal over DeMar is insane to me. Pascal has been playing good. I'm not gonna say great. He has had great time.
Great. Fix your mouth. I get it's the accent.
He can spin.
Your English, you're still working on it,
but
work on it. What you is great.
He can spin both ways.
Enunciate, brother.
No, I won't enunciate. He's been playing good, not great. Not great. He has had great times, but he's not an All-NBA first or second team player. The third team, you can have a case. I'm not mad at it. There's not a lot of names for the forwards. Maybe if they let the guards get in the forwards, then sure, he wouldn't have had a spot. But I'm not going to come in here and say he does not deserve it. But to have him over DeMar DeRozan, who was the best player in the league for a good month.
Was in conversations for an MVP, yep.
And he kept us in the first seed until the last month, which, again, the East is so close that because of 10 games, we dropped from the first to the sixth seed, below the Raptors. But if we're going to be so in the moment, prisoner of the moment, and just be like, oh, the last month of the season, this is what happened. No, man, the guy was good all season. And then we're going to give it to Pascal, who has been, again, good all season, but not at that same level. I just think the Raptors fans, man, they got too much Raptors dick in their mouth. They got to relax.
This guy said too much Raptors dick in their mouth. That's actually such a wild take coming from the guy that can't support his team down the stretch. Telling us that his team is garbage. You can't trust these guys. You can't believe in them. But, now all of a sudden he wants to big up DeMar DeRozan? Bro, no, keep that same energy. Keep telling us DeMar DeRozan shit and unreliable instead of the rest of your Bulls squad.
I never said that. I never said that.
True, he never said that. He never said that. He does not have faith in his team down the stretch. Sure,
hates his team down the stretch.
But I haven't heard him.
You don't believe.
I haven't heard any slander on DeMar.
Listen, I'm a depressing Bulls fan. I'll accept it. But do
you
not put words in my mouth.
Just like Tobias said, basketball is a team sport. Okay. You're going to slander the whole team. You're slandering DeMar DeRozan too as well. You can't trust the Bulls. It means you can't trust DeMar. It's a team sport. It's not individual.
I like this gymnastics he does every time.
I'm sorry, brother.
You made no points about what I said. You just brought it back. We're like, okay, so talk about your team. It's no, bro. I just said the Raptors fans.
I am just saying.
Relax.
I'm not gonna listen to this from somebody who has no support for their team, who doesn't have a backbone, who doesn't stand up for his squad. Now, if Tobias went around saying this, I'd be like, you know what? Yeah, Tobias, I'm gonna listen.
Right.
Because you support the Clippers down to the nitty gritty.
Unfortunately, to a fault sometimes.
I know. You're like Damian. You're the Damian Lillard fans.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's a fair comparison.
That just proved my point.
Bro, when are you gonna just move on?
That just proved my point. Chris made no solid points in what I said. So, thank you.
Honestly, though, it was 1 year. It was in 1 year out the other. 1 year.
Yep. Still with the Raptors.
Was listening, but
hey, man, the dick riding is crazy.
Dick riding ain't crazy.
Hey, bro. You know what I mean?
You know what I will say?
At the grocery store, he's like this with the soldier in front of him.
That's literally you, brother.
That's you, bro. Nah, come on, man.
You're insane. Get
out of here. Yeah, we're starting off spicy. We're starting off spicy today. So Seabash had a chance to give his take of the episode. I don't know if he has any more, but I'm gonna toss it over to you, Chris. Are you gonna keep that same energy with some spice level, or are you just giving us a regular old take here? He might switch it up. He might come at the Bulls now.
I should just come at the Bulls now. I should just fucking tear this fucking whole squad apart. But no, I'm just waiting to really get watching basketball again. I know we're all just gonna talk about it a little bit later on, but a matchup I'm very excited for is that Warriors versus Nuggets. I am so torn between how those two squads are gonna do. Because it's like, obviously I believe in Steph, Clay, all of those guys, but then how are they gonna handle Jokic? How are they gonna handle the big guys and do all that?
Is Steph playing?
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot.
Right. I'll check right now.
His ankle.
I'll check right now, but I don't think now they do have these playoff teams. They do have a week still, right? Like we're recording on Tuesday.
They got time.
So the playoffs don't start until the 16th on Saturday. But still, that would be a bit of a concern for me if I am Golden State, because yes, and again we'll talk about it. It's a really good matchup, and correct me if I'm wrong. This era of Golden State, this championship core that's left. Have they ever gone up against an elite big man?
No.
Tristan
Thompson? Playoffs? Like, what's that?
Tristan Thompson.
Pardon me. You know what I mean? Like, Jokic, he's another level, bro. Like,
I know.
I don't know.
I think they did. Man. I think it was in 2015 when they went up against the Grizzlies before they made it to the finals. And again, Marc Gasol, I think in 2015 he was still a really, really good player. So maybe that there is a case for that, but outside of that, I can't think of too many.
Okay. Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting, especially like if Steph doesn't come back. Like, how does that look for that team? Again, I can't find anything off the top, but we'll see. Does Jordan Poole assume that role? I don't know. This isn't my take, but I saw this fucking potential trade that the Lakers are going to make to get Klay Thompson in exchange for Anthony Davis and James Wiseman. Like, for fuck's sake.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I don't know. I saw some trade, not rumor, but proposal. Anthony Davis to the Golden State Warriors in exchange for Klay Thompson and James Wiseman.
Never that.
We gotta start putting like a stop about about the Lakers. It's like, bro, like none of the Lakers stuff makes sense right now. They're trying to go for Nick Nurse. Why would they do that?
Wow.
Quinn Snyder. Why? It's like all these things. It's just too much rumors going on about the Lakers right now. We just should put a stop to it for now. And just maybe this.
Well, then let's stop after my take of the week, because that's where I'm going. Is the Lakers. And just one more shot that I can take at the Lakers. And I've chirped their fans, I've chirped their players. I mentioned I was gonna relate them to our friend Jake, and he's a big Cowboys fan. And it's really nothing to do with the fans of the Cowboys, although they are very similar to the Lakers. It's how the Lakers organization is conducting business. The management has their hands in the pot, and they're not letting the coach have their hands in the pot. Jerry Jones, for example, with the Dallas Cowboys, the coach isn't even the coach for the Cowboys. Jerry Jones is the coach of the coach. You know what I mean? He controls the coach. He's the one that has more of a say, really, of that Dallas Cowboys coaching staff than anybody. And it seems like it's similar to the Lakers. Again, I think the continuation of the disrespect and the not unclassiness that the Lakers have shown this year. I was just watching, I don't even know if I mentioned this last episode, but I was watching a clip with Tarek, and they were talking about how Frank, like the media knew about Frank getting fired before Frank got fired. And it's like, that is so like unclassy, man. Like if any other organization did that, and they are getting flamed for it, but if any other organization did that, that would look so unprofessional. Like, are you kidding me? Like that looks so bad. And just in continuation, like they're talking about getting Nick Nurse, they're talking about getting Doc Rivers. I don't see an elite coach like that wanting to sign with the Lakers because of Kurt Rambis, Jeannie Buss, Rob Pelinka, all wanting to control everything. I think they had more of, like they said at the start of the year, I think it was either Rob Pelinka or Jeannie Buss, but they had said, hey, if you need to bench Russ, bench Russ. If you need to cut his minutes, cut his minutes. And Frank's like, I'm not going to do that, because if I do that, I'm going to lose him. He's not going to be invested in the team. He's not going to be invested in me. And he didn't do it, but eventually down the stretch he did do it. And of course, he lost the team, and now Russ is going on a tirade, putting out all these statements, like, I don't know. It goes back to the accountability point. There's no one in this organization that wants to take accountability. It's tiring, bro. It's tiring, and at the end of the day, like there's been so much dysfunction. They even go back to the preseason. They went 0-6 in the preseason. And sure, you're like, oh, it's just the preseason. Doesn't mean anything. Clearly meant something this year for the Los Angeles Lakers. Like there was talks again. This is a rumor. We're not in the locker room, so we don't know. But there was talks about at halftime, they're like, players are like on their phones, trying to make dinner plans and stuff like that. It's like whether they were up or not, like multiple situations they could have been up, but the Lakers blew a lot of double digit leads, and it was like when they were like leading at the end of the third, I'm pretty sure I saw a stat where like in the first 3 quarters the Lakers are like a top 5 team in the league. Like they win games in the first 3 quarters. However, there's 4 quarters played in basketball, and as a Clippers fan, I can tell you, because we're the total opposite. I don't feel if the Clippers are going into the half and they're up, I'm like, uh-oh, that's not good. We're winning. Like that's not good. We play better, from behind at half. But I was thinking about maybe tossing a pause in there, but I didn't. But it's just my last take of the year on the Lakers. If I try to bring up a Lakers take for the rest of the year, just shut me down.
Shut you down. Okay.
We're muting your mic. But it's just the ribbon on the present of the Los Angeles Lakers season this year. Everything from top to bottom just is it's ruining the brand of the Lakers. My dad is a Lakers fan, and do you want to know what I saw? I didn't want to tell this guy this because I knew he'd get so horny about it. But do you want to know what I saw when I went home to visit my parents?
What?
What did you see?
I saw a Raptors face mask. And I said, whose is this? My dad said, it's mine. And I was like, you giving up on the Lakers already? He's like, I don't even want to associate myself.
Damn.
And this guy's been a Lakers fan for a long time. You know what I mean? Like, he's a fan of the Bulls. You know, he obviously likes Mike. But he grew up with Magic and Kareem. And it's just like, he's never seen anything like this. Like, it's just sloppy. Like, the fucking Lonzo Ball era with Kuzma and Randall. Like, that squad won more games than this team did this year with 5 future Hall of Famers. How?
That's wild.
And this is a team 18 months ago they won a championship. So, I don't know. Sivash, do you want to comment on that, or do you just want to move along and give another take?
I really want to just keep it moving. It's like, I was just hoping we wouldn't even get to this, but every time you were like, I thought you were almost done, you're like, and another thing. And I was like, all right.
There was just so many things. So, like, if this is the last day, I'm like, I just think I'll get
5 Hall of Famers.
Empty the clip, like, yeah. Empty the clip.
You know what? I will say this. And I just want to end this conversation as soon as possible, but I do want to say this. We got to stop saying 5 Hall of Famers, because 2 of them are kind of, let's be honest, they're washed. Maybe even 3. You can have a case for Russell Westbrook being washed as well. But it's like, I just don't think that point is valid, because it's like, dude, like, they're not playing at a Hall of Fame level. They're playing as good as any role player in the league. Maybe even worse.
You're right, but the IQ is still there. Your IQ does not go. That's why a guy like Chris Paul will be in the league for a long time. Yeah.
Are we comparing Dwight Howard's IQ to Chris Paul's?
No, but I'm just saying in general, like, as a guy that's been in the league, especially as a number 1 option, maybe Dwight's not a good example because he's definitely had the middle of his career, and we talked about this on our top 10 centers of all time, but the middle of his career was not the brightest. You know what I mean? Bouncing around, he's looking like a traveling soldier. But I don't know. It's just, it is what it is. It's the Lakers, man. Yeah. The Fakers, the Piston Purple.
All right, let's get to our playoff talk, man. We got to get to this.
Let's get into the playoff talks. And, yesterday, the last episode, we started in the West, and I started with Chris. We're going to flip the script. Today, Sivash, we're going to start in the East, and I'm going to start with you. So, as a recap, and again, if we're wrong, we'll discuss it after the first round. But as a recap, Sivash in the East, as a 7th seed, you had Brooklyn Nets, and as the 8th seed, you had the Atlanta Hawks. So, I guess start it with the 1-8 matchup, Miami Heat versus the Atlanta Hawks. Let us know.
For the first seed, the Heat, I really think they're going to be able to, if it's the Hawks, I think it's going to be a 6-game matchup. They're going to get them out within 6 games. The Heat are interesting because their half-court offense is really, really slow. And it's going to be interesting how they're going to play that, especially against the Hawks, who are not the best defenders. But for the most part, I think 6 games at most, maybe even 5. It just depends on how hot Trae Young gets. It's very straight to the point. I don't see anything interesting in this matchup.
Chris, I'll let you touch on your 1-8 matchup because you have a different 8 seed. But do you think, how many games do you think Atlanta can steal from Miami?
If they're there. I agree with C. I think it'll be like a 6-game series. I don't think they'll push it to 7. To me, though, sometimes I feel like I use a 6-game series as like a way to like not be disrespectful and stuff. But it's it's they can win a couple more because also with looking at my squad here, because I have Charlotte I also gave Charlotte 2 wins out of like that 6-game series as well. Just depending on how this young squad like kind of operates. Again, they don't have too much experience, there's a lot of players on the Heat who have this experience, who are like leaders and who know what to do, been here before. So I think it's just they'll get a couple, and that's about it.
So you have, so whether it's Charlotte or Atlanta, you have them winning
both.
6.
Yeah, both of them are 6 games.
Steve, are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, I agree. I think the Hornets are also capable of getting 2 wins out of that. They're a young team, and it'll be interesting matchups going on into that. Maybe they can run the floor faster than the Heat, but yeah, for the most part, I think 2 games is a good guess.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with 1. Charlotte, I honestly, again, the biggest thing I look at when I look at the Miami Heat is, they're ferocious on defense. They're one of the best defending teams. They got a lot of those kind of grindy guys: Kyle Lowry, Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, PJ Tucker. A lot of those, similar, familiar guys. I'll give Charlotte 1, but I wouldn't be surprised if they got swept. With Atlanta, I think I have a bit more respect to Atlanta just because they've been there before. They were there last year, But I see Miami winning this either way. I'll give them a bit of respect, and I'll say it's Atlanta in 6. But for me, I have Cleveland. I have Miami going up against Cleveland. Again, this will all depend on injuries. Like John Collins is out for Atlanta, which is why I don't have as much faith in them. But Jared Allen could potentially come back for Cleveland. Now we're talking about 2 pretty solid defensive teams. But again, what I'd be worried about if I'm Cleveland is how much I'm putting on Darius Garland. He's going to be the engine that drives that boat. It's his first time in the playoffs. Like, he's a young kid. He's never really been in this role before. You got an NBA champion in Kyle Lowry over there. Jimmy Butler. Basically, that whole team was in the NBA Finals in the bubble. Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Herro, and they've all grown up. You know what I mean? Tyler Herro's balling. Even Duncan Robinson, he's been spotty, but he can hoop. And then PJ Tucker, also an NBA champion. So I just like, and then you got Spo. Like I just like the veteranship there. I think we're all in agreement that Miami wins. Doesn't matter who their opponent is, unless maybe it's Brooklyn. Because I was telling Chris, there's rumors. I don't know why you would do this. I would never do this. But there's rumors that Brooklyn might want to avoid Boston, avoid getting that 7th seed, and take on Miami. They might have more confidence against Miami, so then they would either play Philadelphia or Toronto in the second round. But
I said that
I would never do that.
I think, and the reason they would do that is because the Heat are very slow on offense, which could kind of they're kind of opposite of each other in this situation. So maybe I don't know, because Boston is kind of hot, man, and I just don't know how that team again. Robert Williams is coming back. We're going to get to that, but I don't know if I want to run into that team compared to the Heat.
Yeah. Well, let's get to that. Let's look at the 2nd and 7th matchup. I didn't know about Robert Williams, but break it down for us, Sivash. Let us know what you got going on over there, because we all agreed Brooklyn versus Boston. Take it away.
I think in that situation, look, 2 games I think is also a good bet for the Nets. The Celtics are red hot. I can even see it being a 5-game series, but of course you cannot count out KD and Kyrie. But they cannot carry the team every time. With the Celtics, they've been playing great defense the past 2 months. They got these guys again. Tatum has been nuclear all this past 2 months. So for me, I just think the Celtics still got that. Robert Williams is rumored to come back before the 2nd round. He's been training. He's been looking good on his way back. But still, man, like you look at the matchups that they have, they still got Al Horford, who can do as much as Robert Williams. They got Daniel Tice. He's been doing good. It's just, again, I do not see them giving up more than 2 games.
What do you see, Chris? Do you have a bit more, faith in Brooklyn? Do you have an upset?
Upset
in Brooklyn?
I actually have it going to a 7-game series with the Nets taking it 4-3. I think this will.
Wow.
The Nets taking it. Yeah.
So
again.
Wow.
Yeah. Honestly, I think going into this, and especially with how the things have played out for Brooklyn most of the season, I feel like they're going to be going into this playoffs kind of with like a chip on their shoulder with something to prove, and they want to get these wins, and they're gonna force these games. Matchup wise, it's yes, Boston's been playing like great defense all year, but I think the Nets can handle that. You've got the best scorer in the league, probably of all time, on your team. You've got Kyrie that's going to be playing consistently for you, and there's rumors of potentially Ben Simmons coming back. So I think the Nets are gonna take this one.
I'm glad you brought. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say we've seen, like, yes, the Celtics have been great for like the last 2 months, but we've also seen how streaky and hot and cold they can be. So I don't know, man. I don't know if that hot and cold kind of thing is gonna come back come playoffs, and we might see them like crash and burn a little bit.
I'm glad you brought up Ben Simmons. Siavash, does your prediction change if Ben Simmons returns for the round one?
No. Ben Simmons, look, he's been having those back issues. I don't see him coming in and playing 35 minutes a game. Sure. He's still a great defender. Sure, he can make a difference, but their lineups does not change that much when Ben Simmons comes in the game. He can come in as somebody that can, sure, move the ball, get the ball out of KD and Kyrie's hands to kind of get better motion going, as well as maybe having somebody to put in front of Jason Tatum. But for the most part, I do not see him making that big of a difference. If he does, again, we talked about it yesterday, if he comes in, starts shooting threes and draining 8 threes a game.
Not a 3-point threat.
That will be fire. But to be realistic in this case, I don't think that will be making much of a difference. But one thing Chris did mention, they do have a chip on their shoulder. And I think with additions of Andre Drummond and Seth Curry, they'll be a threat. But I still think the Celtics are a better team right now.
And I'm not saying that he has the same mindset as Kobe or, intern like Michael, but, Kyrie is a student of the game and he's a huge Kobe follower, right? Like Kobe said, if there was one guy in the game today, it's Kyrie that he's the closest with. So he's learned a lot from Kobe. But if he was to tap into that Mamba mentality, if I'm him, I'm like, okay, everybody in the Celtics, the fan base, not so much the organization, but they're hating on me. They were chirping me. I'm tapping into that mindset, and I'm using that, as motivation. I took that personally. I'm back and forth with this. So while I'm still debating, I want to ask you guys because, yes, Steve Nash was there last year, but still kind of rookie coaches. Do you see an advantage for either coach in this matchup, Chris? Like just from a coaching schematics, outlook. Obviously, they have assistant and associate coaches as well, but that Ime Udoka versus Steve Nash matchup, do you see an advantage on either side?
No, I don't personally see an advantage on either side. Yes, like Nash is, kind of like a rookie coach, but again, if you take into account like his player experience, like he's been here, he knows what's going on. He has experienced players too who've been there and know what's going on too. And I think all that combined will be fine,
Yeah. Siavash?
I agree. I don't think there's much of an advantage for either side, but one thing I keep thinking back to is the way Ime kept calling out his guys all season. And I'm just thinking back to if that pressure that he kept putting on them all season is going to make them more ready for situations like in the playoffs where he has to go all out and actually address the issues that are going on. Whereas you've had coaches where all year they're cruising by, but in the playoffs the guys cannot hear the coach addressing the issues that they're running into. So I think to that, but at the same time, not much of an advantage. I don't think.
I'm going to ride with the Celtics. Mainly because I put a bet on them back in October to make it out of the East, and it wasn't looking too hot for a long time there. I was like, wow, I just wasted $5.
Like 3 months.
But I'm going to ride with that. So again, I think the series length will really depend on how KD and Kyrie play, but more so how those role players play. I just think, Boston, they can shoot. They got guys that are going off. Jason Tatum's doing his thing. Marcus Smart's really stepping up the passing as a playmaker and facilitator. He's also in the conversations for Defensive Player of the Year. They get Robert Williams back. Again, I think one of the more underrated bigs in the league. And that's coming from a guy that's a traditionalist and likes my bigs to be 6'10", 6'11", 7 plays, 6'9", 6'8". I love what the Time Lord does. But I think even without him, I like Boston more. They're deeper. They've got more options. So I'm going to go with the Celtics, and I'm going to take them in 6. But I wouldn't be surprised if it goes 7.
That sounds fair.
Okay. Let's move on to the 3 and 6 matchup. Now, this is when we get into some, not bias. I'm not saying you're biased, but some personal preference. You have a personal, Chicago Bulls. That's your squad, right? So you have, a loyalty in this matchup. So 3 versus 6, Milwaukee, the reigning NBA champion, versus the Chicago Bulls. Steve Ash, how you feeling in this matchup?
Not good. They're running against the best player in the league, a team that has been just cruising by all season, but is still 2 wins away from the first seed.
When you say best player, you're talking about Chris Middleton, right?
Sure. Let's go.
Okay. Just a second.
We were talking the last night of the season, and I thought that the Celtics and the Bulls were a lock. And, I was still not so confident about that. I thought, of course, Robert Williams is out, but maybe we can kind of exploit the inside game with Horford and Tice. Tice, once a Bull, always a Bull, has not been the best for us, but he has been playing good for the Celtics. But we're running against the Bucks now, and I fucking hate it. So my pick for this series is the Bucks in 6. I do think we do have the weapons to be able to get at least 1 or 2 games, but for the most part, I'll be honest, we do not have the weapons to stop a guy or even slow a guy down like Giannis. So I could go all out and just say, the Bulls in 4, whatever, but I'm not gonna.
You're an honest fan. That's what we appreciate. That you say that. That was like such like a backhanded compliment. Like
I know, right?
No actual genuine.
No,
it's not genuine. He's like, you fucking loser.
The
one thing I was saying to Chris like before we started is it's so exciting because there's a lot of parity in the league, in the playoffs last year, this year as well, even more so this year. Whereas a couple years ago, Cleveland, Golden State. You don't even need to watch the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
You know who's going to meet in the finals. This year, you could honestly make a case for a lot of teams to be in the conference finals. But it's unfortunate. Speaking of parity, it's unfortunate that it is so competitive, especially in the East. And the movement, it changed basically every day. Every time we would come on to record each week, there would be a new matchup. Look, man, unfortunately, I think if Lonzo Ball is there, it's honestly a much, much, much more interesting matchup. I really want to say 6. Steve Ash. But I'm going to take the Bucks at 5. I think they get a win. I think it's just Giannis. He's so dominant. He's just gonna steamroll guys. Like these past couple of games, he's just been so hungry, so angry. I'm gonna take the Bucks in 5. Chris, how do you feel about this matchup?
Honestly, I completely agree with the both of you. That was my main concern is Giannis, because it's not that I don't think that the Bulls don't lack weapons to win games and get these. It's just them being matched up against who they're matched up with. If it was another team, easily I could have given the Bulls way more wins, if not winning the series, depending on who they were playing.
Even if it was an elite guard.
Yeah.
Right? I'll let you continue, Chris, but it's we've talked about this, Steve
Mm-hmm.
Ash. What's their weakest position? The 4
forward and center.
What does Giannis play? The 4 or the 5?
All season I've been saying
who's gonna guard that? DeMar DeRozan is not guarding. He's never been a defender, right? So Vucevic? No.
Yeah.
No.
So
yeah. Chris.
Unfortunately, yeah, I'm gonna have to. I had a little more faith, about the same as C, I guess. I had the Bucks winning in 4 with the Bulls coming away with 2 games at least 2 games, So
look, guys, do not feel bad about saying.
Wait, you had the Bucks in 4?
No, sorry, the Bucks winning 4 games. Bucks winning 4 games.
Well, they have to
6,
win 4
6. You know what I mean? 4 to 2.
Yeah. Do not feel bad about giving your actual predictions. I was gonna come in here and say Bucks in 4, but Chris called out my fanship, so I had to kind of
Yeah.
Just level it out and be like 6.
Exactly. He doesn't want there to be proof out there on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I look at a couple other matchups. You touched on Boston, but I think they could give Boston a run for their money. Again, I'm just going to go back to the injury. Like, Lonzo Ball, him being on that team makes a complete difference. Complete difference. But, like, they give Toronto a run. I think they probably beat Toronto. Philly, they could beat Philly. Like, you know what I mean? Even, like, a matchup against Miami would be interesting. It's the Bucks, you know what I mean? Like, so... they're a good team, and, you know, DeMar's not signed after this, is he?
Yeah, he is. I think he's on a 3-year.
Okay, so then you bring the same unit back, you know what I mean, and hope for a season with less injuries.
That is the plan. That's one thing I did hate about halfway through the season. Zach LaVine said that. He said, I can't wait to see how it's going to look next year.
I don't like that mentality.
I did not like it either, but he has been dealing with injuries, so I guess maybe he was foreshadowing that he has to kind of sit out at some point, or he has to get the injuries fixed with a surgery in the offseason. But yeah, that did not look good on us for him saying that.
Mm-hmm. So 5, 6, and 6 were the predictions. I'm surprised, to be honest with you, that Chris didn't take his Coach of the Year winner, Billy Donovan, to win this matchup. I was reflecting back on that, and I was like, wait, why? Like, again, I told you, see that all respect to the Chicago Bulls and Billy Donovan, but there's a lot of other options out there besides Billy Donovan, so I'm surprised you didn't take your boy.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry.
I appreciate Chris being supportive, you know. He's here for me.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Oh, that's crazy.
And I'm going to pay that back.
All I've learned on this podcast is I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. So there's literally no winning with the both of you guys.
Yeah.
If I speak my mind, flame for it. You know what, this is...
Well, that's what we do
Why
here.
did you say this, Chris? Oh, okay. Let me say that then.
Well,
flame for that too.
Like, you know what, though? You know what? Just to go off on this, like, Steve Ash is more supportive of the Clippers than you had been in the past. So I don't know if that's going to change in the future.
How you mean?
But I've seen, you know, Steve Ash has been pretty supportive of the Clippers.
How is he more supportive? This guy was just talking as much shit last year in the playoffs and stuff, wanting them to lose just as bad.
That's last year.
But after the playoffs, I got the respect back. I'm like, look, they actually balled out, and they outsmarted their opponent. They weren't just like, we're these guys who were going to go in there and get the win. They actually outsmarted their opponent. And I love good basketball.
But moving off of the Chicago Bulls, and, you know, we were just talking off, you know, the top about the slander that Chris feels that Steve Ash has been putting on his guy Pascal, Beyblade, Siakam. What do you feel in this 4-5 matchup, Chris? Philadelphia 76ers versus the Toronto Raptors.
This is definitely going to be a 7-game series, I believe. Obviously, I'm gonna root for my Raptors, and I got them, 4-3. I think they have like the necessary tools and the weapons. It's just they need to make sure it's implemented well and utilized well, just to shut down a guy like Embiid. They've shown that they can, again, I think it was last time like they played, Pascal putting up the same numbers as Joel, walking away with like a triple dubs. So there are players on both teams that can compete. The only thing I'm worried about is that a streaky Harden. If Harden figures it out and that Harden Joel thing starts to work, then that's gonna start looking like pretty scary. But right now I'm not too concerned about that.
When we talk about the fan bases, whether it's the Lakers, whether it's the Raptors, Chicago, the Clippers, whatever, we're never pinpointing the guys in the podcast. We're just generalizing. And you know what? I'm glad after all the Raptors conversation, the slander that we the slander that we've had so far today, I'm glad that Chris came in here and said in 7. I was on TikTok today, and I saw somebody who's a Raptors kind of content creator, also a big fan of DeMar, so she also cheers for the Bulls. And she was saying the Raptors are going to win in 5 or 6. And I said, I don't know about that. I'm like, I could see maybe 7, maybe 6, but 5, that's...
No, so, I was gonna say you gotta give the Sixers a little more respect than that. The Sixers aren't some bum washed team. So
Yeah. Sivash, your thoughts on this series and your thoughts on Chris's prediction?
As you saw the way it came into the podcast,
76ers and 4.
My
And
pick
3.
is a 6-game series, and of course the winner. I'm going with the Raptors. I'm picking the Raptors to win it.
Sorry, I was putting the cap on. I don't believe you.
You don't believe me, but I do believe in the Raptors being able to beat the Sixers in 6. There's a few interesting things going on in this series. Matisse Thybulle not being vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, that's very interesting. You mentioned Embiid. Yes, the Raptors do not have one person that can stop Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to reference a line from one of our favorite movies, Avengers: Infinity War. The scene where they're standing and they're about to negotiate in Wakanda before the war starts, and they say Thanos would have nothing but blood and dust, and the Thanos people go, "Oh, we have blood to spare." Raptors have bodies to spare on Embiid. They have these 6'9" players. They're gonna throw at Embiid. They're gonna double him every time he gets the ball. There's a picture of him just from the last game where Embiid's like holding the ball and there's 4 Raptors players around him and his face just looks so defeated. He's like, do I have to deal with this all playoffs? It's just, man, I can see the Raptors doing that to him all series. James Harden, maybe he has a different gear I do not see him coming in with, but at this point, I really think the Raptors have a chance of winning it in 6.
It's good that you mentioned that Embiid thing. He actually came out and said that he doesn't like playing against Toronto because they have all these 6'9" guys that attack him. It's like, what do I do? You touched on it as well, Chris, about James Harden being streaky. I'm hearing conversations about him joining the Russell Westbrook conversation, about being a washed player. James Harden, as much as I sometimes, will chirp LeBron or whatever, James Harden doesn't do what LeBron James does. He doesn't spend hours and millions of dollars on his body to stay in top peak position. He
does.
Great,
just at a different facility.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, where's he going? He's out losing. He'll lose games with Philadelphia, and then he'd be out with Lil Baby, in a studio drinking Henny. What are you doing?
Living the life.
So, yeah, he's streaky. Sure, he can get hot. It's still like a former MVP. You got Joel Embiid. I hope people are gonna stop making the Kobe Shaq references because that was just disrespectful to those two. Joel Embiid, MVP potential guy. Honestly, what it comes down to for me is coaching. And you know where I'm going.
Yeah,
Doc Rivers is not a guy that will make adjustments. He puts out his lineup at the start of the game. It doesn't really change much. Nick Nurse is so crafty with everything that he does. There's one play I always think of when I think of Nick Nurse, and it was like he moved himself up the sideline a bit and kind of distracted I forget who they were playing against, but distracted the opposition, and he thought that Nick Nurse was someone on their team and basically threw the ball away. Nick Nurse, again, very crafty, small, meticulous things, and for that reason, I have the Raptors advancing.
Okay.
I don't, again, like I said to, her name's Mel, but like I said to her on her video, I don't see it in 5. To be frank, I would be scared if I'm the Raptors if it goes to 7. So the Raptors should plan for it to be done in 6, and that's what I'm going to say. If it goes to 7, it's Philly, but I'll say Raptors in 6.
No, for sure. The first 2 games is in Philly, so even if they can split the first 2 games and then go home, that's going to be interesting, man. The games at home in Toronto is going to be interesting because of Matisse Thybulle. So as long as they're able to split the first 2, they have a really good chance moving forward.
And the biggest, we talked about James Harden, we talked about Joel Embiid, obviously, but there's certain, I always go through this, and I think I told you guys about this. There's the best player on the team, and there's the most important player on the team, the X factor on the team. The best player is not always the most important player. The most important player is the player that you need them to be going to win. Tobias Harris needs to be going and playing what he was maybe 2 years ago for them to win. And actually, if they want to do something in the playoffs, he needs to be going. You can't rely on Joel Embiid all the time. Tobias Harris cannot be as streaky as he is. Again, you expect James Harden to be James Harden, but I think if Tobias Harris doesn't get back to the level that he should be at, it's wraps for Philly. But yeah, we all have the Raptors moving on.
I actually think Tyrese Maxey is a bigger X factor than Tobias Harris.
Sure.
Listen, no disrespect to the name Tobias, but Tobias Harris, we know what he is. And with the Raptors, they can just put one body on him and just not worry about him. So I'll be surprised if he outplays, but I'm looking at Tyrese Maxey the most.
Like, can you imagine if he goes back to like Clippers level or Pistons level Tobias Harris? Like, just for a round or two, like Philly's looking nice at that point. But I don't expect it. Okay, so that was our first round predictions. We agreed on some. Actually, you know what? I think we agreed on every single team except Chris had Brooklyn over Boston, correct? But other than that, just a little bit of debate between the games played, so that's cool. We're basically all in unison. Now we'll move over to the West, and we'll start in that 1 to 8 seed. And Chris, I will let you start this time. You had the Clippers in the 8th seed and Minnesota in the 7th seed. Mm-hmm. And then Steve, Ash, and myself both had the Clippers in the 7th seed and Minnesota in the 8th seed. So, Chris, I'll let you take it away. Suns versus Clippers. Give us your breakdown.
Well, I got the Suns versus the Clippers here. And, like you've been telling me, I'm a big Clippers hater, bro. And
you are.
I'm sorry to break it to you, brother, but I'm going to be riding with the Clippers this one. I think
really.
I you know what? I think the Clippers can push them to like a 7-game series. No, I believe the Clippers will win this. It'll be a 4-3 for the Clips.
What do you see? Like, why?
You know what?
I think that's crazy.
No, I believe the Clippers curse was never actually the Clippers curse, and it was the Chris Paul curse. And it was just kind of disguised.
Chris Paul got there in 2012. This has been an ongoing thing for the past 50 years.
Disguised. All right. So I think something's going to happen. Chris Paul and the Clippers are going to meet again. That same energy is going to hit. But you know what? There's just something about the Clippers. I think they've been firing on all cylinders. They've been doing what they need to do to make it work. And I think they're just going to keep that momentum going into the playoffs. They're going to do what they need to do. You've got Paul George coming back out there, who's also like an excellent defender now. Because he played against the Suns in their last game. So it's made a difference having Paul back out there.
For sure.
And you know what? We haven't heard any official rumblings of Kawhi being out for the playoffs. So you could sneak back in, and if Kawhi's out there, that is going to make a huge, huge, huge difference.
So do you think that, speaking of rumblings, do you think that Kawhi is going to make a John Cena Royal Rumble entrance?
I would love that.
He was out.
Yes, 100%.
He comes in,
100%.
And just gets him out of here. Everybody's
now,
like,
you know what? I don't even think it's John Cena. I think it's going to be a Stone Cold entrance with the 2 beers, Austin 316 out there.
That would be jokes. See Kawhi show any sort of emotion like Stone Cold Steve Austin would be very.
He comes out with Steve Austin.
Yeah. Siavash, I just speaking on Chris Paul again. You and I have a different 1 and 8 matchup than Chris, but speaking of Chris Paul, like injury history has been a thing with Chris Paul, especially in the playoffs. If it ends up being the matchup that Chris has predicted, Clippers versus Suns in the first round, and Chris Paul does get injured, obviously never wish an injury upon anybody, but it just came back from a thumb injury. How does that affect the matchup?
I don't think it does. I think, look, the Clippers are good. I am a Clippers believer, but I think the Suns are just that solid where we saw how Chris Paul was out for about 2-3 weeks, but the Suns were still rolling. And Devin Booker has developed into a good playmaker so he can run the offense when Chris Paul is not there. So I don't see that much, like maybe, I don't know, like how many games Chris has for the Clippers versus the Suns, and he did pick the Clippers, but for me, I would say it might make a difference between 1 or 2 games. if everybody's good on the Clippers.
I believe you said 7, right, Chris?
Yes. I was going to go to 7.
7?
7.
Okay, so how about your prediction, Ziash, for the Phoenix Suns versus the Minnesota Timberwolves?
Sweet.
What do you see in this matchup? Again, we're
Sweet.
talking about two bigs.
Sweet.
What?
I'm calling it sweet.
Sweet?
I don't even want to talk about it.
Wow.
Get Karl Towns out of here. Get Karl Towns out of here. DeAndre Ayton's going to lock him down. I do not want to hear no D-Lo, no Ant, nothing, bro. These guys are young boys. Get them out of here.
Okay.
I'm coming in with that energy today.
Damn.
Interesting. Because that reminds me, I'm just going to add on, something that I tweeted today, in looking forward to the Minnesota versus Clippers matchup in the play-in. Over the past 2 weeks, the Minnesota Timberwolves have dropped down. I think they were 13th originally in defense for the whole season, but in the last 2 weeks, they dropped down to 26th in defense. I think they're 18th in offense, but 26th in defense. And again, that's over a 2-week spread. You cannot be going up against the Clippers team, but especially against the Phoenix Suns team with that kind of effort.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I even think you tap into that Mamba mentality, but it's Chris Paul versus Patrick Beverley. Obviously, there was that issue that happened last year at the end of last year. I think I can't give it a sweep. I have trouble giving sweeps out. I would probably say a gentleman's sweep, so in 5. I'll give a bit of respect to them, but yeah, Phoenix is gonna roll. Phoenix is gonna roll 100%. Whether Chris Paul is there or not, I think Devin Booker watching the Milwaukee Bucks celebrate the win, especially after they were up 2-0 in that series. I think he's coming in again. I've talked about it probably 4 times already this episode with the Mamba mentality.
Oh, that's another part I forgot about. That Devin Booker's boys are on the Timberwolves. His boys, Cat and D'Lo. And last time they played, Booker was screaming after the dunk, "I don't have no friends." Bro, yeah, no, sweet.
Wow.
Light work.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, so I say 5, you say 4. And if it's Clippers versus Suns, Chris is taking the upset in the Clippers. Okay, so let's go to the 2 versus 7. And speaking of the Clippers, Seabash, we have the Memphis Grizzlies and the Los Angeles Clippers playing in that matchup. What do you see? How do you feel about this?
I think it's going to be really dependent on what's going on with Ja. I'm not sure if you guys heard anything about it, but I think he's still working his way back. Mm-hmm. So for me, look, I am a Clippers believer, but I think this series is going to be interesting, and it really depends on when Ja comes back. Just as of now, I think it's going to be a 6, maybe a 7-game series for the Grizzlies. But I think that's subject to change to what's going on with Ja. And as we spoke, maybe, maybe a surprise return of Kawhi, but let's not focus on that.
Okay.
But yeah, for now, I just got the Grizzlies, and I'm going to go with 6. I'm going to go with 6.
It's difficult because I've watched a lot of Grizzlies games this year, and they're a young, exciting team. A lot of tenacity. They don't give a fuck who you are. They're going to go up your head and step on your neck. The Clippers are a veteran team with a lot of depth. The Grizzlies have depth as well. They have been a team that has played very well against top-seeded competition without the likes of Norm Powell and Paul George on the back of Reggie Jackson, Ivica Zubac, and Luke Kennard. Ty Lue, wherever you have him, in my opinion, he's a top 5 coach in the league. It's difficult because you're right. The Ja possibility, does Kawhi come back? Does he not? I think we talked about it before. I don't know if it's Chris and I that talked about it or if it was all 3 of us. If Kawhi's expected date, last date I saw was his expected date was April 20th. If that's true, if that happens, that lines up basically with Game 3, Game 4, Clippers at home. I think, again, similar, maybe to that Raptors situation in Philly, if the Clippers can go on the road and win a game, I think the Grizzlies should be a little worried. I'm going to say the Clippers in 7. I'm going to ride with my guys, ride or die with my boys. But I think they have it. I think they're hungry, similar to the Nets. They are not an 8th seed. They are not a 7th seed. Yes, based on injuries or things that happen throughout the season. Sure, they are, but they are not a 7th seed. They are not an 8th seed. So I'm going to take my guys in 7.
The Clippers are...
So, Yash, do you want to comment?
The Clippers are first team when they're down by 25.
Yeah, that's the thing. If we're winning at the half, I'm like, uh-oh, and people are like, why are you upset? I'm like, I would rather be down. Like, you know what I mean? So I think they set the record this year for most 20-point plus comebacks. And I don't like that. I don't take pride in that. That's not a stat I like because I'm losing hair because of it. That's why I got the little drop down. That's why I wear a hat all the time. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I'll take my squad in 7. If Kawhi comes back, it's very scary for the rest of the playoffs.
Very, very scary.
But we will move on to the 3 versus 6 matchup. Chris, you talked about this off the top, so I'll let you get it started. The Golden State Warriors versus the Denver Nuggets.
Denver Nuggets. I will get into that. It is very interesting. I'm just gonna hop back.
I didn't ask you.
You didn't ask me.
I didn't ask you.
It's
Memphis,
okay.
Minnesota. I'm like,
It's
I feel
okay.
like we missed.
We kind of
Go
talked.
ahead.
It's because we talked about it a little bit before. That's probably why. But yeah, you did mention a lot of your prediction with them playing potentially the Clippers does depend on Ja and how if he's gonna be there, whatnot. Honestly, I love Ja, great player, but I could see the Grizzlies going far with or without him. Because they've already shown they can do that. Like this season they're 16-2 when playing without him. So they can still
I think actually
run the
more.
floor.
I think it's like 20 something games.
It might be more. It might
yeah.
because that was in like March or something when I'm looking at 16-2. Yeah.
No, but you're right. Like they've been playing great without him.
Without him. So they have a solid system. So I have them going up against the Timberwolves, and both very young squads, inexperienced squads. But I just think the Grizz are just gonna just hammer it out more, and I'm gonna give them. It's gonna go a 6-game series, probably with the Grizz taking it. So.
You mentioned they're both young teams. They're actually the 2 youngest teams in the league. One thing that I want to ask you before I toss it over to Sivash to comment on your breakdown, Chris, we had the Clippers playing the Grizzlies. Mm-hmm. You had them playing the Suns. If it were to happen where the Clippers were to play the Grizzlies, how do you feel in that matchup?
I think I would probably I would ride with your Clippers. I would still stay with the Clippers.
Sivash, I know you're chuckling over there. But
no, I was coughing. I was actually coughing. I was actually.
Okay. What do you think about Chris's breakdown, taking the Grizz over Minnesota? I think that's the right decision, but do you think that there's any way that Minnesota can maybe sneak some wins?
Sure, maybe they can get 1 or 2 games in, but I still agree with the Grizzlies. I think the Grizzlies got the bodies to go against the Timberwolves. One interesting piece is Jaren Jackson Jr. Mm-hmm. I think he'll be an interesting matchup with Cat, and then from there, again, Grizzlies got blood to spare.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So now we'll go back to that 3 versus 6 matchup. Yeah. Chris, you talked about it off the top. Golden State versus the Denver Nuggets. Tell us your thoughts.
Man, this is the only one that I'm super torn between because again, I don't know how this series is gonna go. I totally forgot when even thinking about this that Steph is out for a little bit, but I mean, he could be back. Because what was it? His ankle or something that he was dealing with? I don't even know.
It was his knee.
I believe so.
Knee, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's man, it's tough. It's tough because unlike these other teams who have bodies to spare to throw at these big aggressive centers, Golden State doesn't have bodies to spare to throw at someone like Jokic. So Jokic can just do what he wants and just pause this, but just work it in the paint.
How effective is Draymond Green against Jokic, really?
Not at all.
You know,
like he's so undersized, and yes, Draymond is probably one of like the better defenders like in the league. Yeah. But then when you have a center who's so good at facilitating the ball, like Jokic, what does it matter? You double, triple team Jokic, okay, sick. He knows there's 2 other people open on the court, and he's just gonna move the ball to those players.
Sivash, I know you were looking something up. Were you looking up the timeline for Steph?
Yeah, I was just looking at the return time. It seems like he's gonna miss the opener, but he could be back during the series. I'm not sure how that affects your take, Chris. Do you have any comments on that?
Oh, you know what?
So I don't think you gave a prediction yet.
No, I still haven't.
I think you're still tossing.
Oh, I see.
You know what? I'm gonna say this is for now. I'm gonna say this is a 7-game series going to the Nuggets. Pending Steph and how Steph is coming back.
Yeah, I think these like matchups in between right now, they're very close to each other. I think during the season, I think they might have split the matchups, or I don't know. I gotta look at that as well. But right now, with everything we know, even with Steph coming back, I am going with the Nuggets in 7 as well. I just have a hard time thinking about, as Chris mentioned, what they're gonna do with Jokic. On the other end, of course, the Nuggets do have some bodies to spare, but yeah, I just think it will really depend on how Jokic plays during the series.
Yeah, actually, it's tough, man. But
going back, looking at the games, it actually does look like the Nuggets beat them 3-1, so they did not split the series. Yeah.
I would also wonder, I guess it doesn't really matter if one of the guys did, but I would also wonder how many games of those were before Clay returned.
Mm-hmm. Well, right? It's pretty much what
I don't know, man. It's tough because, like I mentioned before, I think before we started recording, what big, I think we already talked about it, but what big has Golden State gone against in their championship run? No, what big have they gone against in their championship run, right? You mentioned Tristan Thompson. Kevin Love, that's not Nikola Jokic. You know what I mean? Like this is a 7-footer, 7'1" probably, that can shoot from 3, can pass like he's a guard, rebounds easy. This guy probably averages like 14, 13 rebounds a game, right? Just a dominant presence. Sure, the surrounding pieces might be a little worrisome for me, but a guy in Aaron Gordon has kind of been overlooked, whatever the term is, this season. He's, got his. Again, that's another forward, another big to combat their weakest position in Golden State. Sure, yeah, their greatest position in Golden State is their shooting, is their scoring. I don't know, man. I think it'll be really tough. Again, I think Steph is the make or break X factor in this series. But I think for right now, I'm going to take Denver in 6. Yeah, again, I think if Steph comes back, we're having a different conversation, and it sounds like he is coming back, but I just how healthy, you know what I mean? Like, is he 80% Steph? Is he 60% Steph? Still, that's even better than some players in the league, but I don't know. That's a very, very, very close game, very close series. Any more comments on that series before we move on?
No, I'm good.
No. Okay, now we'll move on to Dallas versus Utah, which I actually think this is a lot more interesting than people not understand, but are giving the teams credit for. Sivash, I'll let you start. Dallas versus Utah. Where are you leaning on this?
Just until the last game of the season, I would have definitely leaned towards a gentleman's sweep. Maybe even a 6-game series for Dallas. With Luka's injury, I don't think it's a serious issue right now. I think they're withholding a lot of stuff to kind of stop the Jazz from game planning for them. But for the most part, I think it will really depend on that. Right now, assuming he's going to be back maybe the first or the second game, I would have the Mavs in 7.
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring up the injury as well. I can't remember who it was. It was a former NBA player. I think it was Richard Jefferson. but Luka has a calf strain. That's what's come out as an injury. And Richard Jefferson, I believe it was him that was talking, saying that a calf strain is a lot more of an annoyance than you would think. Usually, a typical calf strain, he was saying, can take 3 weeks to heal. Luka is the guy on that team. There's no more Kristaps. As much as I rag on him, there's really no second option on that team, right? Who's Dorian Finney-Smith? Is he going to go all the time? I don't even know if Timmy Hardaway is playing right now. Do you have Spencer Dinwiddie taking over a role? You know what I mean? So that's a lot on Luka. That's 40-plus minutes on Luka. That's a lot of the facilitating, the driving, the scoring on Luka. And we've seen in the past when he had a better option, I would say a better 2 option in Kristaps Porzingis, and Luka's been injured last year. I think it was his neck or something. He had all that black tape when he was playing against the Clippers. Great player, high compete level, but the injury slowed him down. He wasn't able to get it done. And now we're talking about a leg, a calf. Again, Luka's a monster, so he could just power right through it. I would be a little concerned. But Utah, on the other hand, they fucking don't know what's going on with their own organization. They're a mess right now, right? There's talks about even Quinn Snyder said he wouldn't do it, but there was talks about Quinn Snyder, moving and going to a different team next year. That's how much the organization is just in shambles right now. I think they have everything that they need to beat Dallas. You have Donovan Mitchell, you have Rudy Gobert, you have a lot of great depth pieces. Mike Conley, Jordan Clarkson, Bogdanovich is back. He's a shooter. They have a lot of the right pieces. Even a guy in Hassan Whiteside off the bench of the day. I like him there. They have the potential to beat them. I'm taking the Utah Jazz in 7.
Okay.
Respectable.
Okay.
Jazz going to the finals, right?
The Jazz. You know what? That would be a great turnaround. Listen, the Boston Celtics versus the Utah Jazz in the finals, 2 teams that, not at the same time, but have had a stretch of issues with chemistry with their own players. I would say Miami, but I actually kind of think, because I know who Pat Riley is and that organization in Miami, I wouldn't be surprised if some of that was partially fabricated. That whole little, argument that they had in Miami. But, Chris, Dallas versus Utah, again, another one of those middle matchups that are going to make it very competitive. What do you see in this show-off between those 2 teams?
Well, I've already won my bet, so I can wash my hands of the Mavs and just kidding.
Humble guy.
Yeah, nice.
But again, I totally forgot about Luka's calf strain and the injury there. Again, I looked at all these team breakdowns with rose-colored lenses, and everyone's healthy, everyone's doing well. So I had initially had the Mavs taking it to a 6-game series, them winning, but after listening to both of you guys, I think I'm gonna readjust that. I'm still gonna have the Mavs taking it, but it's gonna be going to a 7-game series, and it is mostly just because of the fact that, like you mentioned, Tobias, the Utah Jazz are in such a state of disarray that it's I think it is just going to come down to just the chemistry, and they're just not going to be firing very well. Yes, they have great pieces, but I don't think they're going to make those pieces work coherently and just flow. So. And
we talked about this. Steve actually brought up that stat before. What, 4 passes? 4 passes? Not even assists. 4 passes that Donovan Mitchell makes to Rudy Gobert game.
2 passes a game.
This 2. My apologies.
Get it right.
They have the opportunity. Rudy Gobert would destroy in this series. Mm-hmm. Who are you putting in the paint against Rudy Gobert? Dwight Powell? Maxi Kleber? No, you're not. Get out of here, little man. Go away. What's that?
Boban.
Boban. Respectfully, yeah, Boban could do some, but he's probably playing 15 minutes a game. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's not playing a lot. I think if they can figure their shit out, you don't even need to, you guys can go your separate ways in the offseason, but right now, fucking figure it out and try to win a championship, or try to at least compete for one. Again, I also put a lot of value in the coach. Jason Kidd, respectable coach. He's done well this year. Not first time as a head coach, but first time as like an actual competitive head coach. You got Quinn Snyder on the other end. I really like Quinn Snyder. I had him as, I think a couple of us had him as the coach of the year last year. He's another methodical guy, well thought out. I think, again, they have everything at their disposal to win this game. With Luka potentially having an aggravating injury, I think they have the potential to take it. But I think we all agree it would be a longer series. But yeah. So those are the round one predictions. We could be totally wrong. Again, we're recording this before the play-in even starts. The play-in starts tonight. So, again, the Clippers might fucking drop the ball and not even make the
or the Timberwolves
playoffs. Or the Timberwolves, you know what I mean? So we could see Charlotte and Cleveland in the East make it. So we could be totally wrong. But we're here to accept our mistakes. We're not fortune tellers. If we were, I probably would have won millions of dollars in March Madness. I'm excited to see playoffs start, though. I think, I speak for us all when I say that. And we'll be back. Obviously, we'll have episodes in between, but we'll be back to give our round 2 predictions when round 2 inevitably comes. Is there anything else we want to touch on before we head in?
Not really. I think we're at a point where if we go any longer, I'm going to start ranting about how old people keep taking MJ over everybody else, but let's just end the episode right now.
Fair enough. So let's leave it at that. Thanks for watching, and see you next. Peace.
Deuces.